One, perhaps 14 or 15 degrees in East Anglia and the southeast. But there is some rain coming into Northern Ireland by tomorrow evening. That area of low pressure will come in and that weather front will slide away. It'll bring some snow tomorrow night over the Scottish mountains, and then with that weather front stuck across the north of Northern Ireland, the far north of England, and pushing into southern Scotland, here we're going to find a bit of rain during the course of Saturday. But to the north of that and to the south, for the most part, it will be dry and there'll be some spells of sunshine. 8 degrees across northern Scotland, 14 or 15 in the southeast, and not as windy by Saturday. Sophie.
Darren, thank you. And that is it from us on the BBC News at 6. It's time now for the news wherever you are. Goodbye.
Thanks, Sophie. Welcome to Wales Today. I'm Lucy Owen. The headlines. From intense demand for beds to a baby born in a car. A special report behind the scenes at Wales's newest hospital.
You walk away and you do feel like crying because you're not giving that quality and that level of care that you want.
We'll find out about the huge pressure on staff, but also the positive here at one of Wales's busiest accident and emergency departments.
Also tonight, as the dispute over rugby player contracts intensifies, Wales's most capped player, Alan Wynne-Jones, says striking would be the last option.
It's the very last option. There are people really impassioned. I think ultimately if you treat people badly for long enough, you get to where we find ourselves.
And the firefighters reunited with family after weeks away in Turkey, helping victims of the earthquakes.
Hard to run the house without him because it's he's the boss of the whole house and he does a lot of stuff. It's he's the best dad in the whole entire world.
Good evening. A major shortage of beds, an elderly patient spending 8 hours in an ambulance, and a baby born in the passenger seat of a car. Welcome to a day in the life of the Welsh NHS. We've been given special access to Wales's newest hospital, which has one of the country's busiest A&Es, the Grange in Cwmbran, to see firsthand the pressures the health service is under. This week alone, the health board it belongs to, Aneurin Bevan, had a staggering bed occupancy rate of 99.8%. So how is it coping under the strain? Well, Nick Savini is there for us tonight. Nick.
Thank you, Lucy. Welcome to the Grange. It's pretty rare to get behind-the-scenes access to an accident and emergency department, but that's what we've got for you tonight. As you can see behind me, it's incredibly busy with ambulances. I've just spoken to the clinical director who says they currently have 115 patients in there. Bit of a breakdown, 34 people waiting for beds, 24 waiting to see a specialist, and around 35 waiting for their first review. This is a new hospital. It's only been open a couple of years, and they used to speculate about whether they could break the record of 100 patients in the A&E unit. Now 115 is standard. This hospital, like so many, has been under intense pressure this winter, and we keep on coming back to this issue of patient flow. To put it bluntly, patients can't leave the ambulances because they can't get the patients out of the hospitals who are well enough to leave because there aren't enough people to look after them in the community. And these challenges were abundantly evident to our health correspondent, Owen Clark, who spent a day behind the scenes at this health board. You know, they say the NHS is about cradle to grave, and for Owen, he nearly saw it all play out.
Space and beds are always at a premium here at one of Wales's busiest A&Es.
The current wait to be seen at the moment this morning is it's about 10 hours for some of our lower acuity patients.
So should we start with these?
So staff meet several times a day to try and find any free beds so they can move patients onto the wards. But it's like looking for a needle in a haystack.
The longest time in recess, which is excessive, is 1 day, 2 hours.
And they have to expect the unexpected. This car's just rushed into the hospital with a mother who's just given birth in the passenger seat. Staff at the emergency department's entrance respond straight away.
Car came herring round with a gentleman coming out saying that there's a baby being delivered. Went over to the car and true to form, this beautiful baby had just arrived.
We just assisted her out of the car and brought her into the department, into our resus area, so she could be assessed.
So had the baby arrived?
Yes, the baby had arrived.
In the car?
In the car, yes. So she was holding the baby as we got her out, yes.
Within seconds, mother and baby are rushed to resus, a space set aside for those needing the most urgent care. But this A&E's been so full so frequently this winter, staff tell me sometimes they've struggled to cope with unexpected emergencies like this.
When resus was full and we're asking the system for help to move patients out to create that capacity, but it's not coming quickly enough. There were patients arriving by car or who suddenly would deteriorate in the department, and we literally had nowhere to look after them.
Today there are several patients here waiting much longer than they should. Francis Evans from Tredegar spent 8 hours yesterday stuck outside in the back of an ambulance.
Those 2 ambulance men who were there to get patients with the ambulance weren't able to do it because they spent the whole day with me.
So what's causing the logjam? 6 miles away at the Royal Gwent Hospital in Newport, I meet Roger Ford.
That's the new bridge over there.
He was admitted 3 weeks ago with an infection, and although better now and desperate to leave, he can't. He's waiting for extra care to be arranged to be able to safely go home.
I've got to stay here till they find me a bed, or I will have a package to go home.
So you're putting a brave face on it?
I'm putting a brave face at the moment, yes.
But you'd like it to be sorted sooner rather than...
Exactly, keep my fingers crossed.
It is very much about a waiting game now for that care to be available, which, like he's already said, is disheartening, and it is an element of frustration in there for him, but also for us as nurses, because we don't want to keep patients in hospital unnecessarily.
Arranging that care is often the responsibility of councils, but the truth is the impact on the NHS is huge.
We've currently got well over 350 patients across our acute and community sites that are medically fit for being supported in other environments, not in the hospital setting. I would say roughly 1/3 of our patients across our acute and community sites do not need to be accommodated on those sites.
And for every patient waiting to go home, there are many more in the back of ambulances or stuck here in A&E waiting for that bed.
Trying to look after someone in a non-clinical environment or not the area you want to give the care, there's limitations. You walk away and you do feel quite crying because you're not giving that quality and that level of care that you want.
Yet despite the massive strain, staff insist they'll always try their best for patients, just as they did this morning with a baby born in the car.
Wow. So here's the start of the show.
There was no lack of anything. It was plenty of people. That we weren't left at all to wait at all.
Baby's perfect, I'm perfect. We're just waiting to be discharged in the next hour and we're going home.
A ray of hope in what arguably has been the NHS's darkest winter.
Well, a fabulous way to finish that really revealing insight into the NHS. Owen is with me now, and boy, what an extraordinary 24 hours you had. What was it like?
It was a fascinating insight, wasn't it, Nick? Not only showing the breadth of what the NHS does, looking after people in the very first minutes of life, but also looking after people later on in life. Also showing the commitment of staff willing to pull out the stops when their patients really need them. But the problem is those very staff sometimes feel like they're fighting a losing battle. Look, these ambulances will keep coming in, but patients, put simply, are moving too slowly inside the system and out of the system. That's why this issue of flow is crucial. Across this health board, 350 beds are being filled with people medically fit to leave, but for one reason or another can't. To put that into perspective for you, 350 beds just about is the entire bed stock of this hospital. No wonder the Health Minister, Leonard Morgan, says health boards really need to improve flow through hospitals. But it's not just about health boards, it's about councils, it's about social care. There are workforce and financial challenges everywhere, but unless things get better, this winter could be as difficult, if not more. Next winter could be as difficult, if not more so than this one, and this one's been pretty horrendous for many staff.
OK, Owen, you had one day. Let's speak to Dr Alistair Richards, who has to deal with this every day. You're the clinical director of the A&E unit. Just tell us, what's it been like this winter?
It's been a real challenge. It's been as bad as any of us have known. I can't sugarcoat it. We have had days where I remember looking at my senior nurse on for the day, and neither of us knew where we were going to go next when the next patient arrived. Unfortunately, we always find a way, and we will be there for the sickest patients, but it's been a huge challenge this winter.
You always find a way, you know, to your credit, you do that. Are things getting any better? Where are we at the moment?
So today feels like a fairly standard day for us, but as you said in your introduction, you know, we have 34 people waiting for beds in the system. We only have 28 adult trolleys in the emergency department, so the maths just doesn't add up in terms of us being able to see people in a timely fashion, which is why you can see people on the back of these ambulances.
A final brief point from a clinical side of things. What's the big thing that could help you?
Flow, and getting. If we can crack that, then we've got excellent staff, we've got excellent facilities, and understanding patients. So if we can get flow, that's what we all want.
OK, Dr. Alistair Richards, all the best with it. Thank you very much indeed. And to Owen Clark, of course, our health correspondent. So from an incredibly busy but very typical night here from the Grange Hospital and the Accident and Emergency Unit, back to you in the studio.
Nick, thanks very much. To the rest of the day's news now. And the funeral of Claire Drakeford, the wife of the First Minister Mark Drakeford, has taken place in Cardiff. Mrs Drakeford died at the age of 71 last month. Mr Drakeford arrived with family for the service at Thornhill Crematorium. The Plaid Cymru leader Adam Price and the Welsh Conservative Senedd leader Andrew R.T. Davies were among those attending. Now, there's always a big build-up to the Wales-England Six Nations game, and this year, with no sign of a row about players' contracts going away, the tension is bigger than ever. Today, Wales's most capped player has spoken about the huge impact the uncertainty is having, with Alan Wynne-Jones saying a strike for the England game is a real possibility, but the last option. Players are in dispute with bosses about a long-term pay agreement. Earlier, the Welsh Rugby Union confirmed that filming for a fly-on-the-wall Netflix documentary within the Wales camp had been suspended, a decision taken by the players. Nellie Bird has all the details.
After a tough start to their Six Nations campaign, Wales players were putting in the hard work this afternoon ahead of the game against England. But a row about players' contracts means there's a big question mark over the fixture. So, is a strike really on the cards?
It's the very last option. There are people really impassioned. I think ultimately, if you treat people badly for long enough, you get to where we find ourselves. And again, we realise what we do and how fortunate we are to do it. But if this was any other line of work, any other industry, for this period of time, with this amount of uncertainty, you'd get the same reaction. Well, the game in Wales has to make a decision in which direction it wants to go.
I'm sure the players and like us, we would like things resolved hopefully as quick as possible. These things have been going on for a long time, and but all I can focus is concentrate and preparing on the game.
Welsh players are in dispute with bosses about a long-term pay agreement. So a strike is one option, but players are also finding other ways to show that they're not happy. Netflix had been filming with the Welsh squad, but that's been paused, with Netflix cameras not allowed at today's press conference. Alan Wynne-Jones was also asked about reports that the squad left a sponsor's dinner early as a protest. It's hard to imagine exactly what the mood is like behind the scenes here at the team's official hotel, but we have had a statement from the Welsh Rugby Players Association which gives an insight. They say they're extremely disappointed with the stance of the Professional Rugby Board, and they say the situation is placing unacceptable strain on mental health and overall well-being. They say the players have had enough. The Professional Rugby Board, which is made up of representatives from the regions and the WRU, said it accepted that the current situation wasn't ideal, but that it was important for the whole game to get it right.
It's been an awful start to the year for the Welsh Rugby Union. I think there's quite a lot of fan support for the players, because, we're asking, rugby's never been as more dangerous as it is now, and we're asking the players, some players who aren't even on, don't even know if they'll be employed in the summer, to come out there and put their bodies on the line.
Dragons player Jack Dixon says that's his reality.
I've got a 2-year-old son in the house. My wife is pregnant. We're expecting another baby at the end of this year, and I don't know if I've got income coming in June, July, and next year yet. Nothing's been said. It's tough times in Welsh rugby for everyone. Yeah.
A Six Nations Wales-England fixture is a huge moneymaker for the WRU, but also a massive game for the fans, filled with history and excitement. But it seems it'll be right up to the wire whether this year's game goes ahead.
Now, it's been an afternoon of tears and joy for the families of 2 firefighters. Phil Irving and Emma Atchley surprised their children at school after arriving home from Turkey, where they've been part of the UK search and rescue team, helping those affected by the devastating earthquakes. £2.5 million has been raised in Wales in 6 days for the Turkey-Syria appeal. Here's Colette Hume.
Reunited. 8-year-old Evan is seeing his firefighter dad, Phil, for the first time since he was deployed to the earthquake zone. After the joy came tears of relief.
I haven't seen him for like a week. And yeah, it's really hard to run the house without him, and he does a lot of stuff. It's like he's like the best dad in the whole entire world.
A few minutes later, it was 14-year-old daughter Esme's turn for a hug.
It's really nice to finally see him in person after seeing him on the TV and the news and stuff. It's really nice to see him back at home.
Seeing my son and seeing my daughter is more difficult to deal with than going to help people abroad. I think you build up with training a level of resilience to be able to perform in those environments, but love, emotion, they're all significant triggers for me.
This is what faced Phil and his firefighter colleagues. A man and a woman were trapped deep inside this collapsed building in Antakya in southern Turkey. They'd been there for 5 days. After 17 hours of difficult and dangerous work, Phil and his colleagues found them alive.
She said, please hurry up.
77 UK firefighters, including 5 from here in Wales, were sent to Turkey by the Foreign Office as a rapid response team. In Caerphilly this afternoon, there was joy as firefighter Emma Atchley was also being reunited with her 10-year-old daughter Florence. And with 8-year-old Martha.
It's on a scale that I've never seen before.
This was Emma just a few days ago in southern Turkey, and even this experienced officer was clearly shocked by what she saw.
They knew what I was going to, and they know that it's important to help people. I don't know if they understand how dangerous it is or how, I don't think even I understand how bad the devastation was out there, and I hope to be honest that they don't fully understand it.
More than 41,000 people are now thought to have died in the quakes, which have devastated large parts of southern Turkey and northern Syria. Without the rapid response of international rescue teams, including those with Phil and Emma, many more lives would have been lost.
Now, the use of CCTV cameras linked to China will be scrapped or paused by many public bodies in Wales because of national security concerns. BBC Research has found cameras made by the company Hikvision are being used by 3 of the 4 Welsh police forces, the Welsh Government and some local authorities. Peter Gillibrand reports.
A real risk on every street corner. That's what the UK's CCTV Commissioner has branded Hikvision cameras, a company part-owned by China. He's concerned that our reliance on Chinese surveillance devices could leave us wide open to spying by Beijing.
I did Smile last week, where the amount of coverage for the suspected Chinese surveillance balloon and the level of interest in that. And I remember looking at that story and thinking, well, I don't know why we'd be concerned in the UK about something that may or may not be several thousand feet over our heads, when the real and obvious risk is literally staring us in the face.
The company's also been linked by the UK government to alleged human rights atrocities in camps in Xinjiang province in China. Yesterday, the CCTV commissioner published a report saying we need to be cautious.
If the people we trust, so the police, local government, national government, aren't able to trust their surveillance technology partners, then we're in a lot of trouble.
Last November, the UK government ordered its department to remove the surveillance cameras made by Chinese companies from sensitive sites. The Home Office told the BBC that police forces have now been advised of the concerns, but the decision is ultimately down to each force. Since then, BBC Wales has found that Gwent Police are getting rid of the cameras, while North Wales Police have frozen their relationship with Hikvision. Dyfed-Powys Police, on the other hand, who spent £1.5 million of public money in 2018 on the cameras, say it's not an easy job to get rid of the system.
I certainly wasn't aware of any concerns at that time, and I think that's the point really, that as things have come to light in relation to the company, the links to the authorities in China, then we perhaps need to readdress and assess that position going forward.
He's called for UK government money if they do need to change the system, given the concerns. More than 60 MPs think we should ban the use of Hikvision cameras on British soil, like the Rhondda's Sir Chris Bryant.
You don't have to have a spy in the sky if you've got a spy on every corner. Every single Chinese company is by Chinese law required to work closely with the Chinese Communist Party. I'm very happy with the proper authorities in the UK, under the law in the UK, having information gathered from CCTV, but I'm not happy on authoritarian governments elsewhere in the world having it.
Now, the Welsh Government is removing its Hikvision system. The company, despite the concerns raised by those like the UK government, insist they're not a threat to national security. They say their cameras are compliant with all relevant UK law and regulation. But as we use more and more CCTV in our communities, should we be asking ourselves, who exactly is watching us?
To some sports news for you now, and former Wales football captain Laura McAllister has secured a place on UEFA's executive committee. She had been due to stand for election for the post in April, but has been appointed unopposed. She is the first Welsh person to serve on UEFA's executive committee and had been backed by the Football Association of Wales. At Snooker's Welsh Open in Llandudno today, Wales amateur Daniel Wells caused an upset by beating world number 5 Judd Trump. Wells won 4-2 to go through to the quarter-finals in the biggest win of his career. Now, 12 stained glass windows that were saved from a demolished church on the Llŷn Peninsula in Gwynedd have been installed at another church in Flintshire. Designed by the renowned sculptor Jonah Jones in the 1960s, their new home in Mold was the only Catholic church in North Wales big enough to house them. It took 2 years and £66,000 to move, refurbish and repair them, as Matthew Richards reports.
Jonah Jones and his team in their Gwynedd workshop in 1966, sculpting the 12 panels which would ultimately outlive the church they were built for.
Have you any big jobs in prospect?
Yes, I have a nice job at Morfanefn, a new Roman Catholic church there. Will have windows in concreted glass. This is a new medium using glass 1 inch thick, which we cut here.
The church was demolished in 2019, but a project was launched to preserve the windows and move them to the only other Catholic church in North Wales which could accommodate them. Even at St David's in Mold, there was only space for 8. 4 of the windows had been fixed to the walls, lit from behind. Getting them up wasn't easy.
I wondered how to get them up there, so we actually used rock climbing anchors about 1.5 meters above them to actually lift them on chain blocks to get them into position, and then attach them with the stainless steel supports.
Nearly 60 years after they were first built, the windows have been successfully reinstalled here in Mold, where they sit perfectly alongside the existing stained glass at St David's. Jonah Jones's son Peter says his father helped pave the way for an alternative to concrete used to join the slabs of glass together.
It was realised that there would be problems with concrete, and because it didn't expand in heat at the same rate as the glass did. So there was a switch to epoxy resin, which is a completely new technique. So Jonah was one of a number of pioneers. And these windows that have been installed at St Davids, are made with epoxy resin.
Some of the windows were repaired and refurbished at Swansea College of Art's Architectural Glass Centre. Their new custodians say they'll continue to take special care of them.
There's a lot of patrimony that is really, really valuable. If it gets lost, and windows are susceptible to being lost because of the weather, because of vandalism, here, because they're on the inside, they're protected, and therefore they will last as long as this church does. And since it's in brick, it'll last a long time.
It's a medium that's been used in the new Liverpool Cathedral, and it's nice to think that it's being used in a small country church in North Wales.
Jonah Jones died in 2004, but thanks to a major engineering effort, his windows have now shone their light on 2 churches separated by 80 miles and more than half a century.
And don't they look beautiful too? Time for a look at the weather. Sabrina, what's in store for us?
Hi Lucy. Well, some areas have seen the cloud linger all day with bits and pieces of drizzle and mist too. Other areas saw it brighten up. And really the theme over the coming days is for more large areas of cloud. The winds will tend to pick up and it will remain on the mild side, no frost issues through the forecast. So you've probably noticed it has been a quiet storm season. In fact, we haven't seen any named storms on our list rather. And by this time of year, we typically would have expected around 3. However, earlier on today, the Danish Weather Service did name it Storm Otto, as this is going to affect Scandinavia. But because this storm will also brush across our shores, we've also adopted this storm name. The windiest conditions will be across the northern half of the UK. But here in Wales, it does mean it's some strengthening winds, just nothing too exceptional. So through the course of tonight, then, we are looking at some large areas of cloud, some patchy rain and drizzle, further mist and hill fog developing too. And it will be a really mild night for the time of year. The minimum temperatures typically around 3 degrees Celsius, but not dipping below around 11 in a few spots tonight. Those winds will also strengthen from the southwest too. For exposed locations, we could see gusts of around 40 to 50 miles an hour. Tomorrow morning, then, we are looking at some windy conditions in places, some large areas of cloud once again, under some of this thicker cloud, some patchy rain and drizzle, and further mist and hill fog. I think around the middle part of the day, we should see it brighten up in places, some sunny spells developing, but then towards evening, we'll tend to see the cloud fill in once again, and still mild for the time of year, possibly 15 Celsius in the southeast, which is around 6 degrees above the seasonal average. And those winds will also ease towards evening. Looking into this weekend, then, you can see weather fronts still on the scene, higher pressure trying to extend in, making a bit more progress later this weekend. So starting with Saturday, then, we're looking at further mist and murk, further patchy rain and drizzle under some of this low cloud. The breeze not too much of a feature, and it will remain on the mild side, highs of around 14 degrees Celsius. And then looking further ahead, the second part of the weekend, we'll see those lighter winds, still the chance for some lingering cloud, patchy rain and drizzle. And then later next week, it does look like temperatures will drop a little further. So overnight, there is the risk for some frost and potentially a few wintry showers if we do pick up on a northwesterly breeze. And that's your latest forecast. Back to you then, Lucy.
Sabrina, thank you so much. And that is Wales Today. We'll be back with the latest for you right after the BBC News at 10. But for now, from all of us on the programme, thank you so much for your company and do have a really good evening. We will see you later. Bye-bye.